Welcome to Mindshift. We have Mindshift today with a very special person next to me. I'm gonna introduce him in a minute, but just to let you know for the people who haven't been here, to share with you that the main purpose of Mindshift is to help you create atomic shifts in your mind so that you can lead your life with more prosperity, love, and satisfaction. Today we're gonna talk about leadership. And we're going to talk about a specific topic, which is called leading from your core. The person who is here today, as I said, is a very special person. He is part of the book which I was co-authoring with him and other co-authors, which is called Visionary Male Leaders. You can see behind me the full group of people there. And he also has his own book, which is called Leading from Your Core. He is going to talk a little bit more about it. And he is a great coach, great trainer, consultant. He's amazing when it comes to leadership, been through so much in his life, and he can share so many great things with us. But the most important thing for him, which I realized, is that he's real, he's authentic, and he's embodiment of what he's talking about. And I'm really, really, really excited to introduce you, Obi Abuchi. Welcome, man.
Hey, Jimmy. Thank you. Thanks for the introduction, and real delight to be on the show with you now, and looking forward to our conversation and the way it will serve people. I'm sure it will. So we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, thank you, man. So share with us a little bit more who you are.
Sure. So always different ways of describing oneself. I'll start on the personal side. So I'm married to an amazing woman, Obi Abuchi, who's a poet, an educator. And we have 3 boys, 14, 12, and 10. So lots of testosterone and energy in our house. I'm also CEO of Core Leaders International, which is coaching and training company specifically focused on personal mastery as a leader. We can talk a bit more about that later. And I'm an author, as you said, co-authored Visionary Male Leaders, and written 2 of my own books as well, The Magic of Monday and Leading from Your Core, and absolutely passionate about everything to do with the leadership and personal leadership. And I love speaking, I love training, I love coaching, and helping leaders be more purposeful, more authentic, more courageous in the way that they lead. So that's a bit about me.
Whoa. People here, we have a lot of things here to talk about today. So tell me now, I want to hear your story. One of the things which I love talking about here is the story of people, because the things which you achieved in your life, what you're devoted right now, very often is connected with what you've been through in your life. So I want you to hear everything. I want to hear your, the pain. I want to hear the challenges. I want to hear the successes, because this is the real thing, right, man? So just let me know, how your story led you to where you are today here.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Whew, you want to hear everything. That's I got to dig deep here. I'll start off with some personal bits. So I was born in the UK. So I live in the UK now. I was born in the UK, and I've got an older sister, and my mum and dad, they got divorced, or they separated when I was a few months old, and then got divorced when I was 7. And I'll come back to some of the trauma that had, because actually that's been a journey for me. But shortly after they got divorced, my mum moved back to Nigeria. So we all moved back to Nigeria. And because we were going back for good, so to speak, they thought that we should go back by boat. And so we took a 2-week trip back from the UK to Lagos, Nigeria. And something incredible happened on that trip. I watched a film called Return to Eden, which is set in the outback of Australia And in the movie, there's a wealthy family and they have a daughter, and this daughter marries a washed out tennis player who's only interested in her for her money. And shortly after the movie starts, they're married, and he throws her off the boat into a crocodile-infested swamp and leaves her for dead. And he's having an affair with her best friend. And so he's like, she's out of the way. I've got her money, and we can go and live happily ever after. So she's almost mauled to death by this crocodile. And luckily an older man comes and shoots the crocodile and gets her into his boat and does what he can to help her begin to heal, and then gives her some money and to go to a local clinic. Now, some people might think, Obi, that's a really gory story. You shouldn't have been watching that when you were 7. But anyway, I was. But then it's what happened at the clinic that was quite profound for me, because at the clinic, the doctor performs plastic surgery on her and transforms her into, she ends up becoming a model and sets up a modeling agency and is confident, and she ends up getting revenge on her husband or ex-husband, actually husband, because they weren't divorced, and then that the story kind of ends there. But as a 7-year-old, I remember looking at the doctor and what he did, and I thought the doctor did something that made this woman more confident, that made her find her purpose in a sense, that made her be courageous. And I thought to myself as a 7-year-old, I want to do that. And I want to become a doctor, because doctors bring out the best in people. Now, fast forward 11 years later, I come back to the UK and I'm really excited about being a doctor. I actually came back when I was 17. So 10 years later. And I'm excited about being a doctor, and I'm shadowing doctors at hospitals. I have interviews at Cambridge University and King's College and St. George's. These are some top places here in the UK. And then the feedback I get from the interviews is, Obi is not interested in science. And my whole world falls apart, because for 10 years, I've been committed to nothing else. But everyone asked me, hey, what are you going to be? I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a doctor. And I had great grades. So that really wasn't going to be an issue. But for some reason, they said Obi's not interested in science. And I was at this crossroads as a 17, 18-year-old thinking, what do I do? Because there was nothing else that I wanted to do. And I remember standing outside one of the dean of medicine at one of the universities, and I thought, I'm going to go into his office and say, sir, I'm not leaving until you get me into this medical school, because this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. But I couldn't say hand on heart, that's what I wanted to do. And so I decided, all right, I've just got to try and figure out another path. And I ended up studying engineering with management. However, before that, and this is sort of part of my story to where I am today, a mentor of mine, when I was 18, gave me a copy of Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And that really, in some ways, is the genesis of my passion for personal leadership. Now, I didn't know much about leadership at the time. I wasn't really thinking of it. At that time, I was still thinking about being a doctor, right? But the Stephen Covey's book suddenly made me realize about the importance of developing myself and growing. And I remember going through all of the pages. I probably wrote something on every single page, and it just blew my mind. And I gained this passion at that point for personal mastery and making sure that I'm at my best so that I can do my best in whatever it is I'm doing. So I then, shortly after, I go to university, I study engineering with management, I graduate, I join an engineering firm, and then I realize I'm not interested in engineering. I want to work with people. And so I very quickly navigate my way out of engineering into consultancy and change management and leadership development. I wanted to start my own business, and I started my business shortly after leaving this engineering firm, but the business flopped. I say to people, I had a lot of zeal, but not a lot of knowledge. And that was when I started realizing some of the tension of, just because you have a great idea doesn't mean you have all of the tools either around you or inside of you to achieve that. And it was a real tension, because I thought, but I want to make a difference, and I want to help people, and I want to coach. And I became an NLP practitioner and a coach. And I thought, I want to make a difference, but I just didn't know how to make business work. And that was really frustrating for me. And so I then started doing some interim leadership work and development work. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to go back and start this business again. The market it wasn't the right time in the market. Well, for me anyway, I felt it wasn't the right time in the market. I just, again, hadn't really mastered some of the business practicals. And I went through this really dark period of depression and suicidal thoughts, and just thinking, Obi, you just don't have what it takes. This pain, I felt like a fraud. I felt like an imposter. I thought, here you are saying you want to make a difference, and you can't even handle difficulties and challenges yourself. And I just thought, I want out. Luckily, some different opportunities came my way, and I ended up joining a consultancy and really then going deep into training and coaching and helping leaders take it to a completely different level. But before all of that, because I'm in a sense cutting out some of the really dark periods, during that period of depression and suicidal thoughts, I came across this quote by Aristotle that the hardest victory is over self. And it then brought me back to the work with Stephen Covey's book. And I realized, Obi, this is something you've really got to master. If you want to make a difference, if you want to be an effective leader, if you want to be a great husband, a great father, a great friend, all of that stuff, the foundation is all that's going on inside of you. How are you dealing with your conflict? How are you dealing with your conflict in values? How are you dealing with your beliefs, your limiting beliefs? How are you dealing with imposter syndrome in your own life? And so I realized I've got to work harder on myself than I do on anything else around me, because that's the only thing I can control, the only thing I can manage. I can't control. None of us can control the pandemic, right? None of us can control what's going on externally, what our clients say, all of that. But what we can control is our own choice and the decisions that we make in any of those situations. So a few years ago, after working with the consultancy, I decided it was time for me to write my next book, mainly because my mum was diagnosed with Alzheimer's about 7 years ago, and she was encouraging me to write my next book. And as her memory declined, I felt I wanted to write that book while she could still remember, while she could still remember and celebrate with me. Sadly, she didn't really remember. She's still around, but she doesn't remember my first book now. But anyway, I still feel incredibly grateful that she encouraged me to do that. And off the back of the book, started working on my business, Core Leaders International, and building a team of coaches that can serve leaders all around the world, particularly in the area of personal mastery. So that's some of my story. There's obviously so much more that can be said, but it gives you a bit of an idea of why I'm doing what I'm doing today, and particularly why I'm passionate about personal mastery and personal leadership.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you for sharing. I just wanted to, it's a privilege to hear the story of someone like you who've been through all of these things in life. And also, people, when you listen to that, you just want you to relate to Obi, because every one of us goes through a dark period. Maybe now is a dark period, maybe it was before, maybe it will be in the future. But what we want to understand, at least what I'm taking for me in this, from what he said, was that everyone is going through that. That doesn't mean that we are not good enough or there is something broken with us, but it's just part of the way, it's just part of the journey, and it's the thing which actually builds us and prepares us for the next steps in our lives.
Without a doubt.
And this is very important to stay here with this, and even if you're listening to that, just stop it and stay a little bit with this awareness, because that is going to help you tremendously in your life, no matter where you are right now. And one of the things which I want to ask you, just before we go to the next topic we have, which I'm super excited about, just let us know if you can choose 3 events in your life, 3, which were the biggest. I know it's hard, I know there are a lot, but just try to choose 3 events which were the biggest catalyst so that you can be who you are today. And what are the lessons you got from these 3 events?
So I think the first one is the story I shared at 7, watching that movie, Return to Eden. I think the biggest takeaway for me is it helped me discover my why. What's my purpose? And when you know what you stand for, when you know your purpose, it gives you an energy and a clarity and a focus that is almost hard to describe. Some people say, well, you're just doing so much and you've got so much energy. That comes from knowing your purpose, knowing what you stand for, knowing why you get out of bed in the morning. So for me, that's important. And it's something that I come back to again and again, just staying rooted in why am I here. It's also why I tell that story so often. It's a way of reminding myself even of what my purpose is and the power of it, the importance of it. So that's one. I'd say the second significant event happened. So I mentioned earlier on, I've got 3 boys, and my second boy, I think when he was around about 6, he had this obsession with the number 100. And once I was driving him to school and he said, Dad, you're going to live to be 100. And I'm 30 years older than him. So I imagine I'm 100 and I'll be walking around with a walking stick or a Zimmer frame, and he's 70. So he'll probably be doing the same thing, walking around. So we're 2 old guys, gray haired, walking around. But it then reminded me of one of the activities that Stephen Covey gets people to do in his book. Just imagine your funeral. Imagine begin with the end in mind. And at your funeral, your loved ones are there. What are they going to say about you? And I pictured that. And I remember thinking about that activity, but I don't remember doing it. And it was at this point when my son said this, I thought, I need to write this down. I need to write my eulogy. I need to write down, what do I want my kids, what do I want my wife to say about me someday? And I've written it. And some people might think, oh, that's morbid. Obi, you're thinking about your death? Absolutely, I'm thinking about my death. Because I want to live purposefully. I want to live with a focus. I don't know. I mean, none of us know that they say that the 2 things are certain in life, right? Taxes and your death.
Yeah.
And I just know. So each day I review that regularly, and I'm constantly thinking, okay, am I moving in this direction? Am I living in such a way? Mark Twain says, live in such a way that when you die, even the undertaker will be sorry, right? It's like, wow, man, we've lost someone great. And it's not about me trying to give myself a big head, but just saying, I feel like we're all on earth for a short time, and let's live and make the most difference that we can and live with as much purpose as possible. And then I'd say the final thing perhaps is, I mean, there are several, so many that I could remember, but One more recent has been my mum's Alzheimer's. So I said that I didn't grow up with my dad. I grew up with my mum. Mum and dad divorced when I was 7, and then my dad actually died when I was 12 or 13. So mum has been a huge pillar and rock in my life, and it's been really, really painful. I mean, really painful, just seeing the Alzheimer's just take her, and the dementia and the loss. And there have been so many tears, but it's, I guess that the one of the lessons from that even is that, you know, life is short and you never know what's going to happen. And it's important to live with a love and a connection to the people who matter to us. It's also taught me that regardless of what's going on around me, that my real strength comes from within, and from the memories, and from the love, and from the purpose and the connection that I have with others. And I've had to work hard just to be resilient and vulnerable and authentic. And as I've navigated just the challenge of seeing my mum's decline, and help me still be strong and still serve people in a way that's purposeful, even when life is throwing a lot of pain and challenge your way. So those are some. I could share more, but those are 3.
Love it, man. Love it. Thank you. So let's go to the next one, because I can't say more without it. Like, just so it's a great topic, man. I love the quote. You already shared the quote, which is, you know, the greatest victory is over self. And I'm personally, because I am as well leadership and especially self-leadership coach, as you know, and it's so much. I'm so big in self-mastery. I so believe that this is actually, I wouldn't say, that's my opinion, that this is everything. If you do that, if you know how to do that, you can master everything in your life, because actually everything is you in a way. You can go deeper with that. But the idea here of what's my purpose of the question now with you is, let's entangle that. Let's talk about this quote and really discuss what exactly this quote means.
Sure.
So the greatest victory is over self. Tell me what it means for you and how that actually impacted your life.
Yeah. I think to understand what it means, I've got to explain how it emerged, right? And I shared a little bit of it earlier on, but I'll give you a bit more of the story. So my first book, The Magic of Monday, when I wrote that book, I wanted to obviously serve the world. It was particularly written for young professionals. But I sent a copy of the manuscript out to some people, some friends, and they sent their feedback to me. And guess how long it took me to open their feedback and read it? Just guess.
2 months.
I wish it was 2 months. It was 2 years.
2 years.
2 years.
Wow.
And the reason is, I remember feeling so afraid. I thought, but what if they say it's terrible?
Wow.
What if they say it's rubbish? And what if they say it's not good enough? And so here I am, right? On the one hand, I want to serve and I want to make a difference. At the same time, inside of me is this fear and doubt and uncertainty and limiting beliefs that are holding me back. And I just realized, wow, I can be my greatest supporter. I can also be my greatest critic. And I can block my success, all because of what's going on in here, all because of what's going on in here. So there was that story. And then when the book came out, and it came out in about 2012, and I was trying to launch another business, and that failed. That was when I went into this season of depression and suicidal thoughts. And that's because I was giving copies of the book out, and people say, Obi, wow, well done, you must be so proud. But financially, things were so challenging that I was paying our mortgage on the credit card. And I was feeling it as people say, Obi, well done. And I'm smiling externally, but inside I'm saying to myself, you're a fraud. You don't deserve this success. You don't have what it takes. And I just thought, I can't live this way. How can I show up and smile and, hey, yeah, read this book, it'll make a difference. And then on my own, I'm saying to myself, Obi, you're terrible. You don't have what it takes. You're not good at this. You're not good at that. And I realized that in a sense, I've got an enemy within, right? And that enemy the enemy wasn't the market. It wasn't the business strategy. The enemy wasn't in our finance. The enemy was internal. And I realized the battle that I'm going to have to fight is the battle over me. And the most challenging thing about battling yourself is no one knows yourself better than you. So I can say to myself, oh, yeah, but look at what you did yesterday. But look at how you said that. And oh, yeah, but I know that you've got a weakness there and you've got a weakness there. And so it's very difficult. And so when I came across this quote of Aristotle, some people say it might be other people, but generally it's considered to be Aristotle, right? That the hardest victory is over self. That, Obi, you are going to have to battle your internal blockers, your fears, your doubts, your limiting beliefs. If you are going to serve the world in a way that is purposeful, in a way that is true, then the thing that you're going to have to confront the most is those internal doubts and beliefs and fears that you have. And so, and I'm grateful, obviously, for the journey of the Stephen Covey book and all of the other development that I'd done over the years, because it was part of what helped me through that transition and say, you've got to take your own medicine. You've got to apply this for yourself. And the other thing that it did for me is it made me realize, and Obi, you need to recognize that this is hard work. You can't just fake this stuff. This is hard work. You've got to put in the effort of sitting down and working, okay, what are your values? You've got to put in the effort of surfacing, okay, what are the beliefs that are holding you back, and how do you reframe them? You've got to put in the effort of just looking at your mindset and looking at your habits, and what are some of the habits, what are some of the mental choices you're making that are holding you back. You've got to put in the hard work of investing in yourself internally so that you are in a place where you're able to push through that internal wall of opposition. So when I'm training people or speaking to leaders or coaching them, I know what it takes. I know what it takes to have a breakthrough. I know what it takes I also know what it takes to, or know what it's like to feel so down and so dark and feel, hey, there's no hope. I want out. I know what that is like. And I realized, wow, the hardest victory really is over self more than anything. If you want to show up as your best self, you've got to just overcome some of those internal blockers. So that's what that means for me.
I love it, man. So I'm gonna share. I have something to share here with you, and have another question for that. So it's like, see, self mastery or victory over self. It's something which for me is exactly taking ownership of your life, because I'm hearing so many people consider me as well before, when always something outside of you is to blame for your position in life, your parents, your history, your ancestors, your money, your country, your culture, or whatever. But what I realized is, even though we were not so aware and conscious when we were children, and consider that we have learned a lot of things in our childhood, we decided to accept that. Actually, yes, we were not super aware. That's true. If some people say you are a child, yeah, that's true. But what also is true is that you accepted it and you decided to run your life with this. What I mean by that is your beliefs, your principles, your values, your everything, which is running your life, you decided to put it there. And what is the empowering part of that is that you can do the other also, you can remove it from your life and you can put something else there. And this is the thing, because if you see yourself as a victim, you don't see that you have a choice. But you realize that you have a choice because you put it there, you can take it out and you can get something else, which is more empowering and more constructive in your life right now. And this is the thing. This is there is a great book. I'm sure you know that it's Dr. Joe Dispenza is Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. That's the name of the book, and it's very connected with that you realize who you are and we want to become. And then you can decide what you need to change. And everything we change is habits, mind habits, physical habits, whatever habits. So you decide to change this and you create something new so you can create a new life. Because we also need to realize that we create our outside world, but what is inside. And this is the thing which guys, people like Obi and me, we are working, because if you don't make that, everything else is just manifestation of that.
Absolutely.
Of this internal change you're going to create in your life.
Yeah.
And this is mastery over you will create mastery over whatever area in your life you want to have mastery. It doesn't matter if it's intimate relationships, friendships, business, work, career, whatever is there, family. So you're going to create that, and that's the very important part. Every one of us, again, to stay with that and realize that you create your life. Every morning when I wake up, one of the first things which I say to myself, I have this routine for 1 hour with different things. But the one thing I do is I have these declarations, which is one of them is like, I am creator, I'm the created. So I'm going to create something beautiful today. Yeah. And
it's beautiful.
It's working. Yeah. Right. Thank you, man. So it's working. It's just, you put this intention out there and say, I am creator. What am I going to create today? It's exciting. What am I going to create today in the world?
Yeah.
It is. It's super exciting. And you just get excited for the day, right?
Yeah.
So, wow, what would I want to create? It's like this childlike thing, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I want to get out today and create something beautiful. What is going to be?
Yeah. That's so beautiful. Yeah. It really is.
Yeah, and this is the thing, man. It is an intentions, declarations, this kind of thing, they help you to really create in your life, and it's so freeing to know that you can do that. I don't say that it's easy. It's not. You have a lot of blocks sometimes, but that's the beauty of it. You went through that. So just one additional idea here on this topic is, tell me, so what was the hardest thing you need to master over or get victory over yourself so far in your life?
It's a really good question, actually. One of the hardest,
or most challenging, whatever you feel like.
Most challenging. I think so. Not growing up with a father, for me, has it can play out two ways. You know, some people become this overachiever, right? Because you're just trying to prove your manhood or masculinity or whatever it is, and you're driven by ego, and the other option is you feel you just don't have what it takes, and because you haven't had an older role model. And this could apply, you know, whether you're male or female, right? But just an older role model in your life who believes in you and who loves you and supports you. And I got a lot of that encouragement from my mom. I mentioned that with my book. But there was, not having a father left its scars for me. There was definitely this feeling of inadequacy and do I have what it takes, and can I really do difficult things? Can I really do challenging things? And that's been something that I've had to really work hard at with some of the visualizations that I've done, and even just working through. You talk about the your kind of mantras, right, and things that you say to yourself, and that for me was something that I've really had to work on. That internal confidence and belief, trusting in who we are as human beings, our innate creativity. And even I like the way you described it. You talked about, being a victim. I mean, I could say, right, oh, I'm a victim, I didn't have this, or I didn't have that support, and I've had to work hard and achieve things. And yes, what may have happened to me, or some of the disadvantages I've had in life, they may not be my fault, but they're absolutely my responsibility. If I let it stick, that's because I have chosen to let it stick. And so reframing my story, my life story, the narrative of me growing up, even and last year was a really interesting one as a Black man and with BLM, and just at a human level, just the narrative of, well, is one race more important than another, and all of that, and fighting to overcome that as well, and just say, actually, we're all creative human beings. We all of equal worth. We all have something to offer. And so shaking off some of those mental barriers and blocks about how I see myself and the worth that I have, and therefore the difference that I can make, has been one of the hardest to overcome. And a part of the way I've had to overcome it actually is to stop playing that game, is to stop playing the comparison game. Stop saying, oh, but am I better than that? Or, is that, but it's like, forget that game and just play a game that is all about serving and connecting. And people could say, oh yeah, but Obi, you're here. Yeah, but there's always someone that's better than you if you look at some of the metrics. So stop playing that and just go out there and serve, and there you don't have to deal with all of that internal conflict of how do I compare against other people. So that's something that comes to mind.
Love it, man. Love it. We're going to have something about this conversation, guys. Prepare next year. We're going to have another conversation with Obi, and we're going to talk a lot about how actually to stop this comparison game and go a little bit more with the connection. So stay tuned with that. But I'm gonna go, because I'm really excited to ask you about your the concept you are teaching and coaching around, leading from your core.
Yeah.
So can you describe it? Like, what is it? And the essence of it.
Sure. Yeah. I'll describe it by sharing a story.
Yeah.
So the early part of the pandemic, 2020, here in the UK, it was May. We were in the UK, we were only allowed to go out for one walk a day as a family. And so the evening, I think everyone had done their work, homework, schoolwork, and we went out for a walk with my wife, and I went out for a walk with our three boys. And we went into this lovely woodlands near us, and the boys love exploring and riding their bikes and walking around. And this day, as we were walking, I saw a big tree on the ground. And I was curious, and I looked around, and every other tree was still up. But why this tree? Why this tree on the ground? A few days before, yes, there had been storms and winds, but it still didn't explain why this was the only tree on the ground. And then I get closer, and I get closer, and I get closer, and then I realize, now I see why this is the only tree on the ground. And I get my phone out, and I take a photo of this. And I'm thinking to myself, do you know what? This explains what is happening to so many leaders around the world. Because the reason this tree was the only one on the ground was because it had very shallow roots. it wasn't deep. It didn't have the resilience it needed. And I see this with leaders all the time, right? They're very focused on the external. Oh, I need to manage my team, and oh, we need to manage the competition, and oh, this is going on in the market, and there's all externals, VUCA, that volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity is all around us. But what they fail to do is say, okay, but what's going on inside of me? What are the fears it's bringing up? Being a leader is challenging because you have pressures coming at you all of the time. You've got your targets to meet. You've got emotional challenges within your team, relational challenges within your team, business challenges. You've got competition, all sorts of things. This puts an incredible amount of pressure on you as a leader. If you don't have that internal resilience, if you don't have that depth, if you don't know what you stand for, if you don't have the right mental habits, if you have limiting beliefs, then you'll be exactly like that tree. All of the difficulties will come, and then you'll come crashing down, and people burn out. I had a sad story of that I shared of someone in the book who committed suicide because of all of the pressure that's coming at them, right? There's divorce rates, there's dysfunctional relationships, there's organizations not achieving productivity or performance levels because leaders don't have that internal strength to really navigate the challenges and bounce back quicker and come back with a clearer mind and a clearer focus of what they need to do and how they need to show up and a way of recharging. So that's really what's at the heart of the book. It's saying all of the externals, yes, you've got to have a clear vision as an organization. Yes, you've got to have the right tools and processes and governance in place. But as a leader, if you don't know how to put your oxygen mask on and make sure you are at your best, so you're not running on empty, then I guarantee you will not be able to handle the challenges and difficulties of life in a way that's purposeful, in a way that's authentic, in a way that's courageous, in a way that is effective. And lots of leaders are running on empty. They're running on fumes, and therefore they're not really winning the hearts and minds of their people because they haven't done that hard work of digging deep on the inside. And so my book is about helping people to do that more effectively.
So your book and your programs you're creating, they're based on certain characteristics and principles which are helping leaders to actually start leading from their core, first themselves and then other people around them.
Absolutely,
So actually, I'm totally in that. And as I said, this self-leadership idea, I see that this is going way more. It's way more accepted in the Western world right now because people realize that it's not. I mean, for example, I'm in Bulgaria, and there are still leaders here who would say, for example, you go to the organization and say, "Okay, you teach them. I know everything."
Sure.
And this is the moment when I realized that this wouldn't happen here. I don't want to work with this organization.
Yeah.
Because if the leader is seeing himself or herself that he knows everything, then nothing can happen there. You can teach whatever you want the people below, but if this person who is above them doesn't want to learn and it's not open to change and improve, means nothing. You don't need to do anything. And that's I'm talking to other people who are working with this kind of organizations that they say, but it doesn't happen. How do you expect to happen if the people above, they don't care? And this is the thing. And another thing is when you go to and see a leader who is like, wow, yeah, that's super exciting. I want to be part of this. This means that this person wants to learn. And this is super important here, because if the leader starts to develop himself or herself, everyone below them, we know in the organizations, we look at the leader as the authority, right? We want to follow them. Like what they do, we're going to do it because he or she is like the person who is above. So this is the thing. As I said, it's super important for the leader, and the work you do is so valuable for this kind of leaders, because in this way you really can help the organizations to work properly and to really escape these things like you said, suicides or different other problems, breakdowns which people go through because they don't know how to handle themselves and lead themselves in a way.
Yeah.
So definitely it's super important. And now the last thing which you're going to talk about is, can we just share with us first steps or principles you're using so that people, if they want and say, okay, I want to lead from my core, but how? What should I do now?
Sure.
Yeah. How can I get to this core?
Yeah.
So can you share with us, what?
There are loads, and what one thing I'll say, and I'm happy to send this to you, Dimi, and if you want to put it in the show notes, that I've got a resource called the A to Z of personal leadership success. So that gives 26 principles that people can apply that will help them develop their core. The thing that I would just want to make clear is that, core is an acronym, and it's 4 attributes that really help you develop an internal strength and resilience. So C stands for clear values. Do you know what your values are? Do you know what you stand for? If I call a leader here and say, okay, so what are you about? What are your values? What do you stand for? If you're saying, then I know you're already weak on the inside, because it's when you know what you stand for that you can course correct. And let's say there's a difficulty or there's a challenge, or you're having to deal with some major crisis in your business. A bit like a plane. If a plane is moving off target, the values help you course correct and say, okay, this is the destination. This is where I'm going. The same reason the organizations have values, so that they know what they need to stand for. Individuals, leaders need to have values. So that's one thing. There's more, but that's one. The second one, O, is optimistic worldview. So an optimistic worldview is, how do you see the world? Do you see the world as, oh, the glass is half empty, and oh, there isn't enough for us, and oh, I need to take my bit, and oh, I can't develop that person in my team because if I help them grow, then I'm out of a job and I don't have work, and no, so I'm going to keep them down. If you have an optimistic worldview, you will limit yourself and you'll limit your team. So you need to think, okay, how do I know my team? How do I grow my team? How do I I talk about one specific way that people can develop an optimistic worldview is I say zero in on compelling goals. And I describe a compelling goal as a calm goal, CALM. So does this goal require courage? Does this goal help me become alive? Does this goal help me learn? Does this goal, is it meaningful to me? So when you're pursuing those types of goals, that stretches your mind and helps you to see more opportunities, more, just overcome more of the challenges and difficulties that most people would just say, oh, there's a problem, that's a dead end, that's it. But when you are focused on, you've got this optimistic worldview, you're able to see more opportunities than most people do. And it just really shifts your mindset from a scarcity mindset to an abundant mindset in the way that you see the world. So R stands for rewarding habits. And some people might say, oh, rewarding habits, is that, oh, drink water and go exercise? Yes, but the way I talk about it is more of the internal habits. What's your mental habit? What's your self-talk? Neuroscientists say that 77% of our self-talk is negative. So you've got to be in the habit of reframing that and catching yourself. And what you were saying, Dimi, earlier on, like you wake up and you're intentional about, how am I going to think? I am going to think as a creator. I'm going to think as someone who's going to do good in the world. One of the questions that I get leaders to ask is, how can I create the most good in the world today?
Wow.
How can I create the most good? You know, so getting into the habit of just looking at your beliefs, your self-talk, what are you saying? And then how do you reframe that? So that's one example there, just changing your inner critic into an empowering coach with the different questions that you ask. And then the final part is empowering beliefs. So the beliefs that I have about me, the beliefs that I have about you, our beliefs, and you alluded to this earlier on, our beliefs start as a child, right? And we almost have no choice over that. So mother, father, minister, priest, imam, whatever, they say, believe this. And you're like, okay, I believe it. But then as we get older, we don't always take the time to say, but is this a useful belief? People say, oh, Obi, you can't do this, or you can't do that, or Dimi, you can't. Is that a useful belief? Does that belief serve the world? If it doesn't, then I need to discard it and look for beliefs that are healthier, beliefs about people. Some people might say, yeah, but I'm the boss and I tell them what to do and I need to know everything. Why do you need to know everything? Your people, you've got incredible people around you. Reframe how you see leadership as, I'm going to help my people be the best that they can be, rather than my people are there to help me look good. So, that's a way of just reframing our beliefs so that they really are empowering us. So that's CORE stands for clear values, optimistic worldview, rewarding habits, empowering beliefs, and just some examples of how to go about practically bringing that into our lives and just giving us an internal strength that helps us show up as very purposeful leaders who really do get the best out of others, because we know how to get the best out of ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you, man. Thank you for sharing this concept. I'm so excited about it and inspired by it. When I was listening, I was just thinking, wow, that's so true. Every part of it. If we learn to do the core in our life and you apply it, definitely I'm sure that people, they will just, be more courageous, more optimistic, with, more constructive habits, with empowering beliefs. So that will create, guys, a big transformation in your life. So we're gonna stop here. We were really, 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 with so many things here. You're gonna listen to that, I'm sure, several times and write down so many things. So if you want to contact Obi, what is the best way if people wants to learn more about what you do and maybe work with you?
Sure, yeah. So we're Core Leaders International. We're focused on coaching and training leaders in the area of personal mastery. So you can go to the Core Leaders website, so www.coreleaders.co.uk, or you can look for me on LinkedIn or Twitter, Obi Abuchi, and I'd be more than happy to connect and serve and support in whatever way we can.
Thank you, man. So just a last sentence, which you want to share with the audience, what you want to leave them with?
I would say this has become one of my life quotes. Don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, and go and do that, because what the world needs is people who have come alive. And what the world needs is more leaders who are alive, because they've really connected with who they are on the inside, and they're able to bring that energy and that passion to the way that they lead every day. So that's what I'd say.
Thank you, Obi Abuchi. Thank you for being here with us and giving your wisdom. And
Thanks, Dimi.
have a lovely, lovely day. Bye.
You too.